susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.
Good day, Philippines. Today we're going to have an interesting talk about formation and transformation of self.
Understanding the self. The special place of the self in any ethical discourse cannot be overemphasized. Apart from Plato, who introduced the maxim, know thyself, reference to self has evolved throughout the history. It was psyche for the Greeks, anima or soul for the medieval masters, and mind for the modern thinkers. From the Greek term psyche, proponents of this new science now call this undertaking psychology. Victoria is a fine arts degree holder. She has always loved the arts but does not see herself pursuing it as a career. Victoria was plunged into a job that required her to make 40 beds a day at a pace that left very little room for her to catch her breath or take a restroom break. Back home, her interactions was limited only to her kins and close circle of friends. Aboard the ship, Victoria got the chance to confront who she really was through the different circumstances that tested her resolve to persevere and also her determination to affirm and to recreate herself during this period of transition. Her case was a long and difficult tale of personal odyssey, but it is definitely not her alone. Millions of Filipinos who took jobs abroad practically share the same story. This narrative of self-preservation and self-transformation is a story of their continuing struggle to find new reasons to live and to dream.
Study of self and its components, emotion, intelligence, aptitude, mental health, and behavior are the main concerns of psychology. Today, people have learned to accept the self as an entity that can be observed and examined. The variety of theories and experiments proposed by several psychologists over the years proves how complex the self can be as an object of study. Probably one of the most controversial assumptions about the self was made by Sigmund Freud. He postulated that what people always thought of as self might not be what it is. Human thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that comprises the self are but masks of that part of the human person which always remain hidden and unknown, which is Sigmund Freud referred to as the unconscious. This unconscious dimension of human personality may manifest itself through instincts, impulses, mannerisms, random expressions, or the proverbial slip of the tongue. People are accustomed to thinking that the self is something that can be placed under their control, but this is just a bubble, because what appears as self is but a tip of the iceberg. The rest of who people actually are is an enchanted territory. We heard the story of Victoria at the beginning of our talk. For Sigmund Freud's point of view, we should not trouble ourselves reconciling who we are before a certain conflict, because this conflict itself is what makes us who we are at the present. The internal struggle of knowing who one really is a burden from which he or she cannot escape.
From another psychologist named Jean Piaget. As a psychologist, Piaget focused on the human subject's cognitive development or the development of his or her ability to know. Piaget's theory centered on knowing has important implications for understanding the self. Another one psychologist whose theory is directly and closely related with ethics is Lawrence Kohlberg. In Kohlberg's theory, one can find balance between nature and nurture, between reality and possibility.
As previously pointed out, theorizing about the self was once the task of philosophers. With the advent of modern sciences, this job is now dominated by psychologists who have further developed the study of the self using quantitative techniques and experimental approaches. The prime interest of philosophy on the self is driven not so much by the scientific interest to explain, but by the philosophic desire to inquire. One must therefore be able to distinguish explanation from inquiry to appreciate the crucial difference between psychology and philosophy. To explain is to narrow down, to reduce the scope of complexity. To inquire is to confront complexity head-on and identify what makes it difficult without the certainty of an answer.
The second sphere is the sphere of rights. In this sphere, recognition can be achieved if everyone who bear the same right are perceived and treated as equal. Self-respect is cultivated when a person experiences recognition within the sphere of rights. In the third sphere, the sphere of solidarity, the recognition happens when the skill and abilities of an individual are acknowledged. The result of recognition in the third sphere is self-esteem. In other words, it is only in the sphere of solidarity where one is recognized as a self or as an individual capable of making a difference. But its theory of recognition shows that what formation and transformation of the self entail. The formation of self is never a handiwork of any single person, much less the same person. The three different spheres set by Honeth are the conditions that make much formation possible. In all the three spheres, Honeth underscore the indispensable rule of social selection in any endeavor of formation and transformation. More than that, Honeth explicitly suggested how formation and transformation are initiated by act recognition. Without recognition, therefore, the self may simply descend into a vacuum. The main interest of philosophy in the formation and transformation of self is essential ethical. Philosophy does not treat the self as an isolated entity and definitely not as an object of scientific study. For philosophy, the self is not a static specimen, but a potential agent capable of self-creation. The self as an individual is responsible participant who can shape his or her words into a place conducive for life.